friends, it's Carolyn Zook here with CZ Stitch. Today is Thursday, July 16th, 2020. Welcome to my channel about cross stitch. Actually, today we're going to talk about planning and cross stitch. So you've seen me every day this week so far, so hopefully you're not too sick of me. I have another video that I actually just filmed. It's another flip through of the Halloween special edition of Just Cross Stitch magazine. That will actually go up tomorrow on Friday. And then I'll have my regular floss tube on Saturday. So you're getting me Monday through Saturday this week. So I hope you're still with me. I'm really glad that you're here. I have shown my planner a couple of times before. And I've gotten a lot of questions on it, especially the last time I showed it. So I thought I would just do a quick go through of how I use my planner for stitching and planning out stitching. This is not my daily planner. This is not the one I use for work and personal. This is strictly just for stitching. And I keep it by my bedside because I do stitch in bed. And so it's always right there when I need it. But first, I want to go through. So this is a notebook. This is a notebook. I'm just kidding. You know this is a notebook. So I use this in conjunction with my monthly planner for stitching. So I use them kind of together. You don't necessarily have to. This is sort of what works for me. Next year I might change it up a little bit. The reason why I have this notebook is because I put in a lot of the challenges that I am working on. You can see I have it marked with just tabs up here. So if you open it up, this is my notebook. So this is my year of whips for 2020. These are all the projects I said I was going to work on or try to finish. There's 40 and the goal was to finish 20. I'm not going to meet that likely. And then down here are the monthly themes as well. So I can reference this, and the dates that you see here are the date of that month that I finished that piece. So I can look kind of at a glance if I've completed, how many I've completed, and I can tell just by looking at this, I've completed 7 so far this year. Okay, so I have that, and then I just taped in on the next pages the instructions. I just printed them off the Facebook group so that I would have if I needed to reference it throughout the year. The next section, I have the Stitch from Stash. Again, I just printed off the directions, double stick taped it in here, another page of directions and the finish grid so I know what I'm doing. And then I did print off the Excel sheet so I could just write in. So you see I crossed those out because I got 2 months in and then I just gave it up and I was so far behind. And so I just skipped it and then I'm starting back for July. I'm going to try to do it for the next 6 months. So it's just here. I can just I do keep this by my bedside as well, so I can just quickly jot down anything I've bought or any credits that I get. The next section is what whip. So I'm part of this challenge as well. I have the directions in here. I have found that pretty quickly I don't necessarily need the directions. They are on the websites or the Facebook groups if I do need to reference in. The one that I do use the most is the Stitch from Stash guide. And so probably next year I won't worry about printing out all the directions. I was just relatively new to doing any types of challenges or anything. And then I have my whip chart, and the goal is to finish 4 and fully finish 1 of them. So I have that in there as well. And then I have my temperature tree because I am doing a temperature tree. So I just made a really quick spreadsheet with the dates for each month and a column that I write the high temperature for that date in. And then as I stitch that leaf on the temperature tree that you have seen several times, I just put a check mark beside it. And then there's the last quarter of the month. Then the next section that we get into is my floss tube notes. So you can see this is from January 1st of this year. So it's just notes and notes and notes and notes. I was writing in pen for a while. This paper in this notebook, it's nice. It's really lovely to touch, but because it's very soft, but it doesn't, instruments don't write on it very well. So it kind of digs into the paper because it's so soft. But here are my notes for the video that you'll be seeing on Saturday. And then I have some pages left. I won't get through the whole year. If I upload weekly, I won't have enough pages to get through the whole year. So I will be buying a new notebook pretty soon. I will probably go for a regular size notebook next time just so I have a little more space. But what I tend to do with notebooks is when I want to start a new section, I tend to start at the very back and then work my way forward. So these were notes when I started thinking of ideas of what I wanted to do for 2021. Yes, I'm already planning. I wrote up some goals here. These are old. These may or may not make it all the way to 2021 plans. You know, what if I did a 5-hour rotation each month? What types of projects would I work on? This was when I was going to do no new starts that's larger than 100 by 100 except for these exceptions. And then I have my 2021 WIPCO over here, just kind of playing around. I can change it out. And then I actually did start, just so I don't lose track. This is more goals, I guess. And then this page is some ideas of new starts. This is what I started. This is starting my January 1st kind of recap of 2020 and looking forward to 2021. So I just jotted down some notes as I thought of them. I don't know if I'll actually go through with it, but it's kind of like a brain dump. And then my friend Robin over at Bird's Eye Stitches came up with this idea of focusing on magazine starts for next year. So we are going to combine, we're going to host a 2021 monthly magazine challenge. So I just started thinking of things there. Clearly I wrote out the months and two ideas, and that may or may not end up being what I do. So that's my notebook. That's how I use this with kind of the challenges. So if you're involved in challenges, if you need the directions or the prompts or anything like that, I like having it in this book so I can look through it. Now, how I use this, and I'll put a link down below. I just bought this on Amazon. It is still available. Of course, it's a 2020-2021, so it's a 2-year monthly planner. It only is a monthly planner. It does not have weeks in it. It just has the months. I love this planner so much. It has become kind of like a capsule or a record book of my stitching, and the fact that it's 2 years is wonderful. I love it, and I highly, highly recommend it, and I'll talk a little bit about why. But I will put a link down below, so it is still available. I can't remember how much it was. Maybe it wasn't more than like $15, if even that much. And for 2 years, I think that's great. So you open it up, and you get just this book belongs to page. It does give you an overview for the year, which I'm not going to use. I'm actually going to probably cover this up with a sheet because I am running out of room on this page. So what this page is, so this is just the first notes page at the very start of the calendar. So what I am using this page for, because I track time. I don't track number of stitches. I track number of minutes that I stitch. So what I did is I put each of the months up across the top and each project that I'm working on, and I can add, so I only have 2 more spaces, but I can add new ones as I start them to the bottom here. Anything that's kind of slashed out is a month I didn't work on that project, okay? Anything you see highlighted in yellow means that project is finished. And when I finish the project, I go over here and I convert the minutes to hours. And this is just approximate. I'll round up or down. I don't worry about if it's 22 and a half hours or, I don't really worry so much about that. But anything you see highlighted in yellow means it's finished. Okay, and so, for example, this is block 1 of Spring at Hawk Run Hollow. I didn't even start on it until May. So you can see I started on in May. And then I finished it in June, which means I'm not going to work on it anymore because it's done. So I can highlight that and slash out the rest of the months. Okay. So what I plan to do is I'm probably going to make up a sheet. So this I just drew on this notes page. I'm probably going to make up either a Word or Excel document where I can just print it and tape it on to cover this page because I am running out of room. Now, when we get into 2021, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a similar page. So I'm going to do the same thing for 2021. However, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a column. If I have room, I'm going to insert a column here, which tells me, so something like the hate, like Farewell to Anger, which is this one. You can see the number of minutes I've worked on it each month. Now, I'm not going to get that done this year. It's probably going to take me years to finish. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a running list. Maybe I'll have a separate list that says, okay, for all of 2020, this is how many hours I've already spent working on it. Right? So that I can keep track. And it's just something I like to do. I like to know how long it takes me. You don't have to do that if that doesn't work for you. And you can see I've highlighted each of the projects in a different color. It's somewhat random. I like associating color with a certain project. It works for me. It doesn't really mean anything. So I just chose this purple for the spring. So this is Spring Quakers, the SQ. I just chose this purple because it reminds me of spring. This is the spring of Hawk Run Hollow, so it's that purple. This is block 1 spring, so it's purple. The red, this is like a really light red. That's all the Christmas ornaments or Christmas projects that I'm starting. So you see this is Poinsettia Place in Santa's House from the Santa's Village collection. The colors make sense in my head, sort of, and over time, you start to associate those colors with that project or with that grouping of project. So that's how I've used this first page. Okay. And then we turn the page and we get into January. So this is what my January looks like. Let me show you a blank month. So this is what a blank month looks like. So what I like about this calendar is that the boxes are really large. You can write a lot in each box. They have this whole section over here where my hand is tapping of notes. I use my label maker and divided up the notes section into monthly theme, which was for Year of Whips when they were having monthly theme. Well, they still are. I'm just not doing them. Monthly goals, so projects I want to work on, and any notes. So that will change next year, of course. I don't know if I'll use my label maker or not. But this whole section is for notes. So you have a big section of notes, which I think is great. And then in between each month, you have 2 big notes pages. I don't typically use these with one exception, but they're there if you need to use them or if you want to track your monthly number of stitches or your challenges, if you want to put your challenges on here, or if this isn't enough space for you to write out your goals or the challenge pieces, you have 2 pages between each month where you can write that out. Or if you don't like the idea of having a separate notebook, if that feels too cumbersome, there is definitely, every month has 2 pages between it, so you can definitely fit it in there. Okay, so let's take a closer look here at January, for example. So in January, so every evening, I write down the project I worked on and the number of minutes. So you can see here, let me move, I have this lamp right here. You can't quite see it, but it's getting in the way. Okay, so on January 1, you can see it was my 1-year anniversary of being on FlossTube, and I was going to do a big FlossTube. I also started Farewell to Anger. So that's the other thing I do is when I start or finish a piece, I write it in a different pen color, and I keep it consistent throughout the year. Then my brain starts to associate, okay, blue means a start. Started Farewell to Anger. Started Cross Stitch Nation. Over here, I finished Stars Bright. And I write it in pink, and I write it really big. So it kind of stands out. So when I'm looking at this at a glance, I can kind of see, oh, I had several new starts and a couple finishes. Okay. And then you can see I write out the minutes. So if we look here, I write out the minutes and I highlight it with the color that I associate with that project. which is somewhat random. You certainly don't have to do that. Okay. And if I work on more than one, so this is a day that I work on a couple projects. So you can see I did Farewell to Anger. I worked on it for 71 minutes, and then I did my temperature tree for 30, and I add that up, and I get 101 minutes, and I put a big box around it so that I know that that's how much I stitched for that day. Okay. And then at the end of each week, so in this calendar, the week starts on Sunday. So at the end of each week, I just tally up how many minutes total I've stitched, and I put it right here with a big box around it. And then at the end of the month, all I have to do is count down or add up the big box numbers down here, and I come up with my total. This month, I did 5,114 minutes, which translate to about 85 and a quarter hours of stitching. So that was a good stitching month for me. And then over here during the monthly goals, I write out the goals, and then I do write out how long I ended up stitching on that piece for that month, which is easy for me to calculate because I have it highlighted. Now, you have to be careful if you're highlighting some with the same color. You just have to make sure you're very careful. But as I finish a rotation, I can just count it up right there, so I don't have to save it necessarily all for the end of the month. So as I finish a rotation, I will then go ahead and add it up. But this is where it's nice, something like temperature tree. I know I typically work on those on Sundays. So typically what I do is I just have to look at the Sunday row and add that up. Then I take the numbers in here and I transfer them to this page for whatever coordinating month. So say this is January and I fill it in and then I carry on. Okay. This is also where, so for example, the first 24 hours of cross stitch weekend was this weekend. So I wrote it here in pencil that weekend was coming up. So I knew how to plan for it. So, we have one, say, coming up in November. This is what my November looks like. You can see it's 24 hours of cross stitch. They let us break it up over 3 days. So I know that's coming. So I know I need to plan for that. I need to plan out what I'm going to be working on, or I need to know that I have that chunk of time. And I've talked about how what I love about 24 hours of cross stitch is that it just kind of propels forward my progress in a chunk of time. We are talking about doing unsanctioned events on the months that Jen Lee, who is the brain behind 24 Hours of Cross Stitch, it's Jen Lee and her mother, Cindy. I've been talking with a couple of friends of mine about just doing unsanctioned 24 Hours of Cross Stitch once a month, and in the months that she doesn't host it. So that just because of the progress that we get. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. But what I like to do is I like to then write out in a big box and in a different color pen how many hours I actually did out of the 24. So this is my first one time participating, and I got 18 hours done, and I was really happy with that. Okay, so don't worry, I'm not going to go through every single month like this, but hopefully this gives you an idea. Let's look at July, because that's the month we're in. I just think this is funny, though. Look at June real quick. So you see all this purple? All this purple is the Spring at Hawk Run Hollow, the first block. Now you'll see I had some days that are X'd out. That means I didn't get to stitch on that at all, on that day at all. There was no stitching done. And if you go back to like February, you can see all this. This is around when I had my eye surgery. So there was no stitching at all. And the same for March. March, there was so many. See all those X's? Like this week, I didn't stitch at all. That whole week, none at all. It's very unusual. I think it's the only week like that in this so far. But that's when I had my eye surgery. So, and if you're not feeling well and stuff, so things come up. So I just put an X on it, and that's fine. I'm not worried about it. Here's where I am. This is how July is looking. So what I also love about this is I love watching it kind of fill up with color and words and just my stitchy progress throughout the month. Because it starts as a completely blank page and then just slowly it fills up. So everything in red, these red lines, that's my Jolly July starts. So red in my mind means Christmas, Christmas ornaments. This color, kind of darker blue, is for Harbor Haven number 9. And you can see in blue, I've written all my Jolly July starts. So there is a lot of that as well. And then what I do is I pencil in my plans that I'm going to be working on. So today's the 16th. I have Christmas at Acorns Hollow. My fabric hasn't come in yet, so I'm going to switch that. I'm probably just going to take this off, and I think it will probably be delivered either tomorrow, Friday, or on Saturday. So I will be working on Harbor Haven until that comes in, because I do want to it's already mid-month, and I want to get that done. And I still have Spring at Acorns Hollow Block 2, which I haven't even started on. So I don't think that's actually going to get done this month. And then we have another 24 hours of cross stitch coming up at the end of this month. And I do write in, my plans for that, which is Kringles. And then I'm started doing Whip Go. So instead of the monthly theme, I'm now changing that to Whip Go. And these were the 2 numbers that were called, and I'll show you my board in just a minute. But Jessie Marie Does Stuff hosts this, so you can just look for Whip Go group on Facebook. And so those were the 2 projects that were called, and so I'm going to fit them into 24 hours of cross stitch this time. So I'm going to do 4-hour rotation of Kringles to start that. I'm going to do 10 hours on Royal Holiday. So if I'm doing 4 of Kringles, I'll do 4 hours of Royal Holiday, 4 hours of Royal Holiday on the 25th, 4 hours of Death by Cross Stitch, and then 8 hours of Death by Cross Stitch, and that should be my 24 hours. So in the 24 hours challenge, I will be completing this challenge and also getting my Whip Co done. And then over here, you can see, here's my monthly goals: to start Kringles, to start 11 ornaments, which I'm working on, a 3-hour rotation on Farewell to Anger, and a 3-hour rotation on Balmy Spring Day. I don't know that I'm going to get to those this month. I really don't. The month is half over, and I don't know that I will get to it, but that's fine. I'm not going to worry about it. Temperature Tree, I'm working on weekly. Harbor Haven number 9, Spring at Acorns Hollow number 2, and start Christmas at Acorns Hollow. And then this was, I just ran out of room because this label was in the way and I can't take it off. But this was Spring at Acorns Hollow Block 1, which I finished this month. And then down here, when I was planning out, I write in pencil because plans change all the time. Right down here, I write out, here's what I think I want to work on from this 24 hours. And this is working out the closer I get to the 24 hours of cross stitch. So it's next weekend. I can change this up if needed, but for me, this is working really well. And I think that is, in fact, what I'm going to be doing. So let me show you one more thing. So this is an example of using the notes pages. So this is between June and July. This is my Whip Go board. It fit really nicely in here. It was actually, because this is not a full-size notebook, this is a bit smaller. And while I like the size, it's really hard if you're printing something out, like rules from a Facebook site, rules for a challenge or ideas or prompts or anything. I had to cut up a lot of those. You saw those examples that I had to turn it sideways and cut it up. And it's fine. It absolutely works. But I think when I buy my new notebook, I'm just going to go for a regular full-size notebook so I have a little more space. But I am really liking this. I do like it all together in one area. So this is my Whip Go board. And so each month when she calls a number, I will come here and box it off. And as I finish the 10-hour rotation, I will cross it off. So I just used washi tape and I taped it in. Easy. And then it's right there for me to plan from and work from in July. Another question I got, let me find an example here, is what are these sticky notes? What do you use them for? How do you use them? What do they mean? I'm a planner. I love to plan. I know that sounds kind of nerdy, but I really like planning things out, plotting things out, changing the plans up. So sticky notes are great for that. So this is September, okay? And this is what I think I'm going to work on in September. So I just put on a sticky note because this might change and I don't want to write it in yet. Now, when we get maybe halfway or so through August, I will probably feel pretty confident that what I'm going to be working on in September. So I will go ahead and write it in then. So I have already written in August, I think it was last night or the night before, I wrote in August plans. Okay, so again, temperature tree. So a lot of them are the same, right? Temperature tree, 3-hour rotations on the 2 Hades. Harbor Haven number 10. There's Harbor Haven every month. Spring. This is spring at Hawk Run Hollow. Now, you see I didn't put a number in there because I don't know how far I'm going to get a number 2. I doubt I will get it done this month. So I will probably be finishing up spring number 2. This is August. I'm also going to be starting a 4-hour rotation on my ornaments because there are some I'd like to get done in time for Christmas. And we're going to start Princess Eliana by Mirabilia. Okay. So I wrote that in, and then I have to wait until the 27th of July before I know what the WIPGO calls are. And so until I know what 2 projects I'm going to be working on for that. And that will be my goal for each of those projects is 10 hours a month. So that's 20 hours of stitching. But to go back to the sticky notes, so these are just plans I have, and they can change. And I will solidify it a little bit better as we get closer to that month. Here's November. This is November, where there is another 24 hours of cross stitch, which I showed you earlier. Jen did have it at the beginning of the month because of Thanksgiving. But you can see, so here are some ideas. So now November is an interesting month for me because I am slated to finish the whole Harbor Haven piece in October. So October will be scene 12. So that will take that huge chunk of rotation. That's 22 to 25 hours a month of stitchy time. That's about a third of the stitchy time that I get each month. So that opens up some stuff for me to think about. And I think, what am I going to feel like working on in November? I'm not sure. These are the things that I kind of will do every month. Temperature tree, a farewell to anger, ornaments, my WIPGO, my Hawk Run Hollow spring, whatever number I'm on. This will probably be lowered down, but this is originally, I thought I would be at block number 6 by November. I don't know that I will. And then I thought, I'd started Santa's Village, and I haven't worked on it. I think I worked on it in January and maybe a little bit into February, and then I put it away. But November, I feel like stitching Christmas. And so maybe I'll pull it out because I didn't actually start on it until January of this year. So maybe I'll feel like pulling it out. And so I'm trying to think ahead. What might I feel like? Because I like having ideas so I don't forget about these pieces that I love and started and maybe had to put away for a while. And then you could see here, because we have 24 hours of cross stitch. Now this is just an idea I have of how I'm going to split up my time for the November 24 hours of cross stitch. And again, this can change because it's on a sticky note. There's no rules, right? So right now I'm thinking I'm going to do an 8-hour rotation on autumn. Technically, we're still in autumn in early November. 8-hour rotation on Halloween. I'm thinking maybe I'll still be in the Halloween spirit because Halloween will just have ended. And then I have some smalls that I started last December. So that says White Pumpkin, Come with a Grateful Heart, No Notion, and Peace to My Heart. And these smalls that I started last December just to put a few stitches in to get them on my whip in my rotation that I haven't really taken out since then. And so if I can give them a couple hours, they'll make some great progress and get them closer to a finish. So right now, that's my idea for November 24 hours of cross stitch. That can change. I might get there and say, I am not ready, or I don't feel like stitching Halloween anymore. So I would take that off, and maybe I'll replace that with Christmas since we're starting Christmas at Hawk Run Hollow. Because after Halloween, then my brain just automatically gets into Christmas, and I know myself, and I know that I very much typically like to stitch in the season that it is. Now that means that I can't always have it done until the following holiday, but that's okay. And then see, December's blank. I have some ideas again, but because I've developed a formula for each month, right? Because temperature tree, I'm going to work on it every month till it's done. Now next year, I don't plan to do temperature tree again next year. I have it this year. So that will open up that spot. I plan to still do a 3-hour rotation in each of my heights. I plan to do Whipco next year. My goal is to finish Spring at Hawk Run Hollow next year. This is December, what I'm showing you. So again, I have Santa's Village. And then I'll be starting Winter Quakers by Rosewood Manor as well. Okay. And yes, I do have some ideas written down for into next year. Not well into, but so these are my ideas. Again, trying to think. I'm close to a finish on the Blackbird Designs bunny. So when do I think I need to start working on that to get it done in time for Easter this year? Because that is a goal of mine. I want to up for Easter next year. So I think I have to start working on it in January, even though I just said that I like stitching in the season that it is. But when I'm close, I'm probably about 3/4 of the way done with that piece. So I'd like to finish it. And I think I can easily finish it in January, but I have to remember to make time for it. And that's really what it's about for me. And then there's a similar companion piece, the basket, the Blackbird Designs basket. I'd also like to have those done at the same time so I can display them at the same time and get the same frame for each of them so that they can be displayed together. So this is February 2021. So I thought, well, if I really focus, I can maybe get the basket done. And Easter is in early April, and I was able to tell that because it's in this calendar. And then at the end, you still have notes, the 2 note pages between each month, even at the end. And then it's just a very simple planner. It just says many thanks. And that's that. It's a very simple planner. I really like it. I love seeing kind of how it's shaping up and all my notes. And I think this will be really fun to look back on. It helps me keep track. It allows me to plan, which I think is really fun, and plot things out and rearrange things and all of that. So I really enjoy it. I will leave a link down below of where I got this on Amazon. Or take a look around if this format doesn't quite work for you. Take a look around. But I do like it. I do feel like the boxes are really nice and big. And here, this is what a notes without any of my labels in it. This is what the notes section looks like. So you have a lot of space to write. And there's not a lot of extra stuff that you don't need or won't use. It's just very simple. And that's exactly what I needed for this purpose. I hope that helped give you some ideas, helped explain a little bit about how I use this planner and my notebook. It'd be great if I think next year I'll be at a point where I can more easily combine these two. I will still need a separate floss tube notebook for my notes because I have a floss tube. But if you don't have a floss tube or you don't use it in that way or you don't need notes for your floss tube, then I would like to have the challenges in here. Because those notes pages in between each month have largely gone unused so far this year. So there's definitely space for me to incorporate more of the challenges into that. So I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions more that need further clarifications that maybe I didn't make sense, or you think of a question I didn't answer here, please feel free to leave it down in the comments below and I'll be happy to answer it. And I will see you tomorrow for a flip through of the Halloween Just Cross Stitch magazine. Take care. Bye.